This may be a bit personal, but did you fill those gaps? Were you successful in doing what you set out to do?
I mean, no one ever fills all the gaps, surely. This life is like a leaky boat with a bunch of holes in it. You're trying to figure out yourself, I guess.
Hi, I'm George, and I'm here with Luke Hemmings for the latest in NME's In Conversation series. Luke, hi. So, first of all, how does it feel to be here speaking about your solo music? It must be a really weird experience having this out in the world now. How are you feeling?
I feel good, man. I feel you're right. It was a strange experience. I think everything leading up to it and when everything was becoming real before it was out, I was very apprehensive, very anxious about it. But I feel great, man. It feels really nice to work on something for so long and sort of have all these fears about it and all these concerns about it, and them all not to really matter. And it kind of was just it came out exactly, well, so far came out the way I intended it to come out, where, it's really music based and, it's like a very truthful, thing for me.
Yeah, I was going to say truth is like a big theme in the project. It seems to be as well. It seems like you get in, like you put in like your true self across first, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, definitely, man. Even I was just saying this the other day to someone, and even throughout the whole creation process, I was still I know in the back of my mind, after a certain point, I was like, okay, this is turning into an album, but still I was so in it for so long and so just making music and trying to figure out, how to make it sound exactly the way I wanted it in my head, that I kind of forgot that it was ever going to come out. It was such a long road to get there and to get it to where I was happy with it, because it's a different experience putting something out on your own, obviously, when you've been doing something else for so long. But then when actually it started to come out and Starting Line was coming out, it was like, oh my God, this is actually a real thing. And I was super nervous about it, but it went down really well, and the band was really supportive. And it was kind of my main thing was really making sure that everyone understood why I was doing it, and understood the sincerity behind it. And I was, obviously we all went through something really, really crazy together as an earth, so I think everyone can sort of relate to that. And, me being at home, that's kind of my outlet. And it was something that I didn't realize until, into the creative process, but I needed to figure out those thoughts in my head either way. And that's the only way I know how to do it,
Yeah, because it's interesting to say that, because when was the first moment that you can think, pinpoint, when you thought, oh, I need to do this. I need to do this by myself. I need to do this for myself.
Yeah, well, it's because it started the way a lot of COVID projects, I guess, started. But there was a couple of months where I was like, okay, this is seeming because I think all of us, well, if you're lucky enough, all of us had a couple weeks or a month where we kind of did nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of or you were trying to figure out, okay, because it was it wasn't, this is going to be a year or longer. It was it's going to be, a couple months, because it's so unprecedented, obviously. But it was the first thing I wanted to do was figure out, can I write a full song on my own again? Without, taking it into someone else or taking it to the band or whatever, and just sort of starting again at square one. What does a song sound like if I write it by myself, the whole thing? And I was doing more production stuff in this room. I set up a studio, and I wanted to really get better at producing and understanding the way of sound manipulation and what goes into finishing an actual song. The first songs that I wrote for on my own didn't end up on the album. It didn't feel, looking back, they were kind of I had to write them to get to a song Starting Line or whatever, any of the songs in the album. I had to sort of write a bunch to get there. I wrote a bunch of songs and ideas and had sort of an idea of what I wanted it to be, but it wasn't okay, I'm doing an album. It was more just I'm just making music to make music, and I'm going to try doing it on my own. Because first of all, I couldn't see the band, And second of all, like I just wanted to challenge myself and see what could I do if I was trying it on my own. And I think it took a long time for me to even wrap my head around doing something separate and releasing it, because there's a much bigger difference in like writing songs in the safety of your own home and then like turning them into an album and, you know, trying to meet other people to finish it. So I met this guy named Sammy Whitty, came through friends as like a producer writer, and that's where it kind of picked up momentum, because I had all these ideas and thoughts about it, but like I just sort of spent like months with him. Like him, that was the first time I met him. It was the first person I met in COVID. Like, so it was very it was very awkward because I hadn't seen anyone in months. But that's who I met that sort of like helped bring the project to life, because my production skills, they got a lot of heart behind them, but they, you know, at the moment there's a ceiling to them, and I can like make something sound the way maybe it almost could sound, but he's obviously much better than me at production, and I can sort of like, you know, say, can you do this, can you do that, and he has like great ideas as well. But yeah, I don't know if any of that made sense in chronological order, but I like it. That's kind of where it built from, and like I don't know, it was very interesting having like just me and one other person in that sort of producer artist relationship, because in the past it's always been with other people. So it was interesting to have like just a one-on-one thing. It was really beautiful, I would even say.
Yeah. As in terms of like production stuff as well, I know that you said that you really wanted to level up your songwriting on the album. Is producing something you'd want to do more in future, like self-produce an entire album yourself?
I would love to. I think I'm always going to need someone to like tie up the loose ends. Even the ones on the album that I produced, it still has Sam helping like flesh it out all the way. Like, because I can make a demo that feels like and like sounds like you can hear exactly where it's going to go, but like going through everything and like, you know, even getting it to mix and all that stuff is like a whole other thing for me. But I think, you know, never say never. I'd love to get to the point where I can do that, but at the moment I can get the idea across and need someone to, you know, it's like an alley-oop.
You could be the Australian Max Martin one day. You know? Do you know?
Yeah, I don't have quite as beautiful hair as Max, but
no,
you know,
I don't think anyone has as beautiful hair. Swedish pop producers. Have you ever worked with Max Martin, by the way, or like been in the same room?
I have worked with Rami Yakub and Carl Falk, who are Swedish. I don't want to lump them all in the same place, but Rami worked with Max a lot, so I work with him. I've been in the building once when Max came in, and he has quite. That's why I saw his hair. He's dressed great. He's very in shape. He's got a thing going on.
Yeah. Anyway, Max Martin aside, we'll put him aside. Your first album, When Facing Things We Turn Away From, is out August 13th. You must be very excited. And I feel like this question kind of leads in from the title, but what things were you turning away from, and how did it feel to finally face them?
It's a good question. I like that. Yeah, so the album as a whole has obviously the whole underlying or overlying theme, whichever way you look at it, when facing the things we turn away from, is since I was 15, I was in Five Sauce and like in a very unique walk of life for, you know, almost 10 years now. And I think, but also I think a lot of people had a similar experience where it's like when everything sort of shut down, and for instance, you know, yourself or like even someone that works in like an office job 9 to 5 was suddenly at home, I think you sort of reevaluate your life and like the way you look at things and what's important to you. You know what I mean? Like someone that's working all the time nonstop is suddenly at home with their family or their kids or whatever, a significant other, their dog. I don't know. It's like you go back into real life, and I think people are making, I don't know, changes that are like, was I happy with the way things were? Like, was I happy working this much? Was I happy being away that much or whatever? So I only say that because I feel like the more I've thought about it, because obviously I'm writing from my perspective and the things I the way I feel in my walk of life is different to everyone's, obviously, but everyone's journey is different. But I think, yeah, I think it's a relatable thing for a lot of people. And for me, like even going on tour again, or like the way I write music now, or the way that, you know, me and the band hang out together when we're going to make another album is different because of this time. You know what I mean? And it's like, what makes me happy? What's important to me? And yeah, but that's just one of the things that I've picked up on. But to answer your actual question, for me, like in that 10 years, like being such a crazy experience for being such, you know, a young adult. I think there was a lot of things that were left on the back burner, and sort of like, because we're just, you know, going and going and going and not really ever like that. This is the longest time I've been in one place by far since I was 15, you know. So to have that, have this time like in one spot was like incredible for me as a human to sort of figure out everything. But it also was like, okay, there's like a few things I've got to figure out. And I think some of the songs are written, like for instance, Starting Line is written from the now perspective, looking back, and that fearfulness of like time slipping away, and like all that, like it being such a dense period of my life and such a strange, awesome period of my life, that I'm having to like look back and figure that out and try and like decipher it was so important for me to, I mean, it would have had to happen at some point, I think, that, you know, like you try and realize what kind of happened and the way things have affected me, good and bad. You know what I mean? And some of them are written from like the perspective of, you know, the 17-year-old kid that's in this kind of whirlwind life moment that doesn't know how to handle it and doesn't understand how to, I don't know, figure it out. As I mean, you're not really supposed to at that age, I guess, but just sort of diving into those feelings was super cathartic. And
you must have been so disorientated as well at like 15, thrust into this entire industry as like this package. Yeah.
No, exactly. And I always tread lightly because it is like, I love being in 5 Seconds of Summer. I love being in that band, and that I wouldn't change anything about that, except maybe some fashion choices I had back in the day. But I wouldn't change anything about that time. So I always want to say like there's no ill feelings towards it. It's just, it is what it is. And there was, you know, moments where it was confusing and difficult, and it's left a lot of gaps in my humanness, I suppose.
Yeah.
And some are really great gaps, and some are, you know, I mean, I don't know how to do laundry very well, so I had to learn how to do that, like even small things. But, you know, I was more talking about like the mental sort of, I don't know, the mental gaps that one can acquire in that situation.
Yeah. Because you said, I read the brief for the album, and you said that your life has been, for the last 10 years, your life has obviously been very, very hectic. Like you've been pulled across the world, done amazing things. But writing the album for you was trying to like fill a lot of gaps for yourself, but in a positive way. And I just wanted to ask, this may be a bit personal, but did you fill those gaps? Were you successful in doing what you set out to do?
I think so, man. I think, I mean, no one ever fills all the gaps, surely. This life is like a leaky boat with a bunch of holes in it. You're trying to figure out yourself, I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna say yes. I filled all the ones that I needed to for now, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, being in one place and having that time to reevaluate and to figure out why I am the way I am, and like seeing like, oh, okay, this has been happening for a bit, and like why it's almost like therapy, I guess, for me, is songwriting. And because the way I write songs is usually, a lot of the time I don't come in with like, oh, I want to write about this. It's more like I'll play something and words will sort of come out, and then I'll go, okay, well, what does that mean? You know what I mean? It sounds very whatever, but that's kind of the way I write at the moment, at least for this album. It was very like, stuff would come out and I would sort of have to like catch it and figure out what it means to me, and why I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like I was like, okay, I'm going to write about the way this made me feel. It was more, it just sort of came out and I had to like almost catch up to it.
I actually find like started like quite a sad song. Like I listened to it for the first time and I felt really sorry for you. Like because I feel like, you know, you say that you're running out of time. And I just wondered, do you feel like that in a personal sense, in a professional sense, in both? Like, because time is running out for everyone, but it just seems like, yeah, I just felt really sad for you listening
Yeah,
to that.
I don't know. I don't know. You don't have to feel too sad. It's okay. It was definitely more aimed in a personal sense. The time running out, and I think the whole song is pretty sad. You know, it's very like I was just saying. Like I just have such a fascination with things that are out of your control as humans, and really being face to face with that. With not, there's no, you know, all right, we're going this place now. We're like going this. There's no like, there was no distraction from anything for everyone. There was no like distraction from we can't go anywhere. We can't do anything. And it's like, okay, we're sat and faced with, for me, what was like almost like being in this wreckage of a long time, living one way. And that line for me is just, I don't know. Is it the other time I'm running? What is it? I'm running out of time. Oh yeah. It's just like, yeah.
Because it almost felt like you were writing to that 15-year-old kid in starting line as well. Like you were a bit gutted that he, you know, missed all the things that he could have lived. But then again, you lived someone's dream. Like, you know, it's a very odd position to be in, isn't it?
No, definitely. And I think it's exacerbated by my feelings towards like the way that my life was lived and then being at home for so long. But I think it's something that is relatable to everyone. It's even that Pink Floyd song, like, you know, you wake up one morning and 10 years has gone by. And it's like, it's so true. I don't know. It just, there's no way to control that. And it's like, I have a hard time being present and in the moment. I'm always worried about something in the future or thinking about something in the past. And it's like to try and get myself, and it's a lot of people, it's a struggle to like be here in the moment. It sounds so hippie, but you know what I mean? It's like, people are always so stressed about everything at, you know, either side. And it's really difficult to stay in the moment. And that's, I think, when you lose a lot of time, you know, wake up one day and, you know, so much time has gone past. And that's how I felt. It's like, I just, everything sort of like got away from me so quick. And I was never like in the moment. Well, not never, but you know what I mean? It's like, you can feel like that when you look back and you're confused about it. You can feel like, oh man, I didn't do this right. Or I didn't like live that enough or whatever. So that song, like even Standing on the Sun and I Don't Feel a Thing lyric is based around that feeling of like, oh man, like I don't, you know what I'm saying? That's
yeah. So because I imagine started like as you sticking to your younger self. So if your younger self was here now, what would you say to him?
If my younger self was here?
Yeah. In this room, in like a time travel scenario.
Oh geez. What would I say? I'd say you should maybe stop wearing skinny jeans and Vans every day. maybe because you're in the public eyes in some way. Maybe like, you know, change up the outfit a bit. No, I don't know what I'd say. I'd honestly just say enjoy it, and I don't think he'd listen. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't want to listen to me, but. I don't know. That's a hard question. I don't know what I would
ask. Like, hard-hitting questions, Luke. That's why they.
Exactly. You stumped me, man. I can talk all day, and you've stumped me with that one.
We'll circle back to it, I'm sure. But talking about, like, obviously we've mentioned the boys and we mentioned Five Seconds of Summer, and you've been with them and you've been releasing music for like best part of a decade now, if not a decade. Yeah. Do you look back on entering the music industry with them? And, you know, it seems to, I don't know if if this is the right word, but we're starting out especially, it does seem to like weigh on your mind a bit about like everything that you went through. Did you feel prepared to enter the situation that you found yourself in at like 16?
No, I wouldn't say prepared. I don't think anyone's really prepared, but I think it would have been a much different, worse story for me without the band. I just have such sympathy for people that are on there. Well, I mean, the irony that I'm doing a solo interview, but I have such sympathy for solo artists that, especially if they're young and like touring. And I don't know personally how I would have handled it without the band and that, without having a good family and having good people around me. But I just think, I mean, even now, like everything with the band around is, yeah, it just makes everything so much better. And like going on long tours and even going through such a beautiful, crazy, weird, awesome thing together. You have someone to talk to it about, and they know exactly what happened. And you almost like they almost remember things differently than I do. So it's like you get to, I don't know, it's like you get to compare how each, you know what I mean? Like compare to each other, but more importantly, just had like mates on the road and like friends there.
But it also must be a relief in a like almost like a professional sense to be separate from them, because I think you've spent so long being Luke from Five Sauce, like on all your social media, on all like your stuff. It seems like, for want of a better word, like Luke Hemmings kind of like took a back seat for those 10 years. So it must be nice to kind of like reintroduce him slowly.
Yeah, I think it's not even like, I wouldn't say a back seat, but I think in the band, I think because of what it is, there's definitely, especially on stage, there's a sense to like some sort of semblance of a character is being played, because it's such a big thing. And like we're playing big shows and like, you know, if you kind of stand there with twiddling your thumbs on stage. But I think this album is more, I don't know, just straight to the heart of exactly what I like, and more straight to the heart of what I am feeling lyrically. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's why it took me a second to figure out what I wanted it to sound like and what I wanted to say on this, because yeah, I wanted it to be like its own separate sort of sacred place that I could come back to. And it's like this sort of thing over here, because my whole idea for it was like, when I listen to people like Bon Iver or like the War on Drugs, and it's like it's almost like the music behind it is so ethereal and so like the feeling of the music matches the lyric so in tune, like so like it's like a fifth, I don't know, another emotion level, like sixth sense, how many sixth sense emotion, where it's like you just like feel it with your whole core and your whole body. And I really, really wanted that for this album. I wanted it to be like you fall into it and you fall into this world where it's like you feel all this hyper emotional music and all the parts that are played to like match the lyric and the feeling that I wanted to convey and evoke from people. But yeah, I don't know what the question was, but I just end up rambling.
It's really interesting that you mentioned Bon Iver as well, because I was gonna ask you about like your sonic influences for the album, because I hear Bon Iver a lot. Obviously, I hear INXS because I think you're Australian. It's either that or Kylie Minogue, and I strangely on Motion as well. I really hear Everything Now era Arcade Fire, which I think is sick. So yeah, I just wanted to ask you any the music is quite genre fluid in a way as well for a first debut solo album, where normally it's about like setting a template. Like the first Five Sauce album was very like pop punk, pop rock, wasn't it? Yeah. And now you seem to be taking a more fluid approach, and I think that's really interesting as a first step as an artist in your own way.
Thanks, man. I think because I gravitate towards, as I was saying, like very like grandiose, sort of ethereal production, like you say, Arcade Fire or War on Drugs and Bon Iver and like M83 and all these sort of huge, larger than life productions that are very, I guess, dreamscapey. I think the reason that maybe it doesn't feel too like that is because lyrically it's juxtaposed by the people I'm influenced by lyrically, which are like, you know, Neil Young and like Joni Mitchell and like very singer songwriter, like very like I said, straight to the heart lyrics. And I think it's like a mixture of those two worlds because I love the way that feels and that sounds, but I am writing obviously very introspectively for this album and very the lyrics are, you know, all the songs pretty much lyrically are written at one instrument, like a piano or a guitar. So I think that lends itself obviously to being much more personal and much more introspective. But I always gravitate towards like, I mean, I was listening to so much Pink Floyd, like the Great Gig in the Sky is like, Sam wanted to, I played it to him. We need something like this. We need something like this. Like he was so sick of me by the end.
And weirdly, the title, because it was quite long as well of the album, it really reminded me of Fiona Apple for some reason. Like,
oh, okay, yeah. I like her. I need to dive in more to Fiona. People
have you listened to Fetch the Bolt Cutters? Yeah, no. You need to listen.
Wait, is that the new album?
Yeah, that's the new one. Yeah.
No, I need to dive into that. I will.
It's like an entire different reality that she created.
Yeah, see, that's another artist that gives you a whole other feeling. Then you dive into a world and you almost get to, it sounds lame, but you get to come back and visit it every now and then.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I guess some of that is like the nostalgia of when you first heard it or whatever. But I think a lot of it is in like the sonic and the lyric and the way it all makes you feel, which is I guess the common denominator of music, the way it sort of evokes emotion from you.
Is that what you want fans to take away from the album as well? Like that kind of like their own personal world with you that they can revisit again and again? Was that like an aim as well?
Yes, no, definitely. That was the, I guess, ethos.
Yeah.
Is that the word? The ethos of my album. It was definitely to like create a body of work and sort of a world that you can come back to and have that I don't know, that emotional sort of hyper emotional feeling about it. And I don't know, you can come back whenever you want, I suppose, because it really is a bottle up. Sorry, it really is a bottle of work. It really is like a full body of work and like a full album, and it was intended in that way. That's why it was really hard. Starting Line stood out because obviously the name and it sums up everything lyrically and sonically, but it was really difficult to choose songs to come out because they're like none of them are really in my head like singles. They're all just like a bunch of thoughts and feelings. And for me, I mean, I was way too close to the music to be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what come first. Is like, no, they're all just like, I don't know, they're all just like thoughts and feelings. So even like choosing the songs and the way they would come out was a difficult thing because I felt like they're like my babies, you know.
Did you ever think of doing like a full Beyonce and just like dropping the album? Like, no.
I think I didn't think of doing the full album drop. It takes a lot of guts. I think it would have been. I think this project is because of maybe the position I'm in and because of the way it sounds and feels, would have been a lot to drop the whole album at once and be like, here you go. And people are like, what the fuck? What are you doing? Like, give us some warning, give us some like some I don't know, some context. And I think so that's the reason I think, you know, I needed a couple moments before, because I think there's a couple songs out before the album itself.
Yeah.
And I think they all are maybe different parts of what the album will sound like. So I think that's really important because it is one body of work, but you know, there's, like I said before, there's the very grandiose sort of strings and, you know, synths and big drums and whatever. And there's also like this more somber, like I said, like one of her Neil Young moments who I love, and we didn't go full for those ones.
The kind of like sweeping, because Motion, which is the second single, which I don't know if people will have heard by the time this interview drops, maybe, but I don't know. But like the kind of like sweeping, like almost like power ballad banger. It reminded me a lot of like Born to Die, like that kind of thing. Like I said, like Arcade Fire as well. Like I think it was like an oomph Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like to carry from where starting line started.
Yeah, because where starting line started. I think Motion was definitely like on the more like very like the Flaming Lips. I was listening to a lot of them, and even like Beck, all of those. And you've hit the nail on the head. It's just it's slightly more, I guess, trippy than starting line, and it sort of shows that side of it where it's like, so it's more shows that side of the album of like the sonic of the Flaming Lips or whatever.
And finally, I told you we'd come back to this question, so I'm going to say not script. But if like 15, 16, 17-year-old Luke was here in the, physical sense, metaphorical sense, whatever, but if 17-year-old Luke was here, do you think he would be impressed with the album?
Yeah, I think I can answer that one. I think he'd be impressed. I think for me, my whole like journey at the moment is, and especially the last couple of years, is to be the best sort of songwriter I can be. And I think it's like a skill that I want to keep building on and just get better and better at. And I think at the start of the band's career, which is like about 15, I had ideas for songs, and I had sort of thoughts and like ways to figure them out. And over the years, obviously writing so much, in sessions and for the band, like I have figured out a way to do it. But at that time, I wasn't exactly sure how to write music, and I wasn't sure how to finish a whole song. So for now, being able to finish a whole album on my own is a huge feat. And I think that would be impressive to 15-year-old me, I guess, even on a songwriting level. And because it was always like the want and the desire to do that and be at, even the level of songwriting I'm at now, like I'm so stoked on. I'm not saying I'm some wizard or anything, but for like, coming from where I was to now is like such a huge and vast difference, just even on a personal level, not in like competing with myself is, I think you'd be stoked.
Yeah. Speaking of the songwriting as well, do you think you're going to bring that back to the boys and start cracking on a new record now that you've learned all this stuff about yourself?
Yeah, man, we're already started, and I think we're in the studio at the moment and finishing the band's album, so it's gonna be great. Writing a couple of new songs, finishing some already written ones. This all, and that's also what like it's all tools to take back to the band, and like it's just all helpful for me. Like I said, I just want to be the best songwriter version of me that I can. So it's all helpful.
Yeah, the best songwriter Australia has produced since.
I'm a long way off that, but I'm better than 15-year-old me, so that's something.
Well, Luke, thank you so much for talking with me today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.